It's morning time, and in working with genetic behaviors and learned behaviors, and if I want peace and quiet, I know that certain dogs that I have here have to be free. The barriers cause them to become neurotic because they don't have the luxury of reducing the cortisol level themselves. The dog that you hear in the background barking is a dog that is put away. The barrier that he's behind causes stress, and the stress is let out through barking. It's necessary sometimes for me to separate dogs because of what I'm doing. I may be working on one particular problem and not the problem that dog that you hear in the background may be having. But when it's time to work with them, then I will release them and then they'll stop barking. The reason that these dogs create these problems behind barriers, because I have some dogs that say nothing when you put them behind barriers, the reason that they do that is the relationship that they've developed with the prior owner created this neurotic behavior. Because in attempts to control them, they separated, which we can call timeout. To separate them from what it is that they're doing that we don't want them to do. Somehow we were taught to think that if we did that, then this simple-minded creature would be able to do something as complicated as understand that it was because of what they were doing is the reason that we separated them. When all they can do now is focus on the feeling that they're having now that they are separated. We never tell them the truth as to why we are doing what we're doing, but somehow we figured that they should be able to understand that. Well, even children don't understand that. If your child is doing something and then you tell them to go to their room or to go sit on the couch, the first thing the child would say is, "Why, Mom?" And then we would have to explain to them that this is why we did this and did that. And because of the frontal lobe of the child, it's able to understand and put those two together. And the child will say, "Okay, Mom, I'll stop doing it." And the mom will say, "And if you do, then you can go ahead and do what you were previously doing. And if you do it again, whatever that thing was that I didn't like, you'll have to go back and sit down again." Perfect understanding. Now, for the animal to be able to understand that, we would have to be able to communicate with them in that way. Sit down and have that kind of dialogue. But nature didn't wire them that way. So we have to tell them at the time that they're doing what we don't want, that we don't like that. And then they will go and sit down or lie down or time themselves out. But that's perfect understanding. See, but the reason we do it the way we do it is because of training. And training is something that comes out of the human's mind. It's a form of control again, but not the understanding of the control. See, when you're controlling something or someone, the person doesn't have to understand why you're doing what you're doing. That's not the objective there. The objective is control. Whether you understand it or not is irrelevant. It's like taking orders. You don't have to understand the orders that you're taking. You just have to do it. And so that's where this comes from. And that's not the way I work. I want the dog to understand, because I know every dog that comes here is here because they don't understand that their owners didn't like what they were doing. And so my job is to explain to the owners and explain to the dog what we don't like in the way nature says that it should be done. And so I'm just showing this video because I'm out here, just like any other time when I have dogs released and dogs behind barriers or barking. I know that it's certain dogs that have that neurotic tendency that's much higher than other dogs, if I want the peace, I have to release them. And then in releasing them, I reduce the cortisol level and the adrenaline, and bam, you'll get the peace and quiet. So I'm just saying, understanding nature versus nurture is so important if we're going to work with these creatures, to know that they have been interfered with in some way from us. Brings out a lot of sympathy in me, because I know what not to be so neurotic about. And I give them a break. I cut them slack, so to speak, because I know what they're dealing with. But in doing so, they become a more sensitive and sympathetic to me too, and loving, as you can see here. All right, we'll continue.